ගරු සභාපතිතුමනි වෙලාව ලබා දීම පිළිබඳ ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා. අධිකරණ අමාත්‍යාංශය පිළිබඳ කතා කරනකොට මේ කාලය තුල අපිට පැමිණිලි ගොඩක් ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. අධිකරණ පද්ධතිය තුලත් අදාළ ආයතනවලත් තියෙන දුර්වලතා, මානව සම්පත්, යටිතල පහසුකම් පිළිබඳ ප්‍රශ්න රාශියක් මීට කලිනුත් මතු කරා. මේ විශේෂයෙන්ම ප්‍රිසන් ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් එකේ තියෙන ප්‍රශ්න ගැන මම එතන එකක් මතු කරන්න කැමතියි ගරු අමාත්‍යතුමාගේ අවධානය පිණිස. අර කිව්ව විදියට අර දැන් ඉතාමත්ම 11,000ක් ඉන්න ඕන බන්ධනාගාරවල දැන් 29,000ක් පමණ ඉන්නවා. මේකේ කාඩර් එක මේ ප්‍රිසන් ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් එකේ කාඩර් එක 2013න් පස්සේ රිවයිස් වෙලා නැහැ. දැනට ඒ 2013 කාඩර් එකෙත් 7,862ක කාඩර් එකක් තියෙන්නේ. ඒක කිසිසේත් ප්‍රමාණවත් නැහැ. ඒකෙනුත් ඉන්නේ 6,120ක්. ඒ වගේම මේ අවුරුද්දේ සැප්තැම්බර් මාස 23 මේගොල්ලෝ මේ ප්‍රිසන් ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් එකේ ඔෆිෂල්ස්ලාගේ අලවන්ස් එකක් ගැන යම්කිසි දීමනාවක් පිළිබඳ ප්‍රොපෝසල් එකක් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් ඒ ප්‍රොපෝසල් එක තාම ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙලා නැහැ. මම දැන් 2014න් පස්සේ ඒ දීමනා කිසි දෙයක් වැඩි වෙලා නැහැ. මම හිතන්නේ ඔබතුමාගේ අවධානය මම මේ නිශ්චිත කාරණයට යොමු කරන්න කැමතියි. අත වශයෙන්ම මේ යටිතල පහසුකමුත් සම්පත් පිළිබඳවත් කතා කරන ගොඩක් දේවල් තිබ්බත් මම ඒක නෙවෙයි අද මගේ මාතෘකාවේ ප්‍රධාන කොටස බවට පත් කරගන්නේ. I actually want to draw your attention to the very critical situation that we are facing in terms of the judiciary, in terms of justice and democracy in this country. This is and the role of the judiciary at this moment and how important that is. I think we all agree that for a society to function effectively, for a democratic society to function effectively, the various organs of the state, the pillars of democracy need to not only function effectively but be seen to be legitimate by the people. That there's a level of trust between the people and the various organs of the institution or of the state. That the social contract that is a necessary element in governing, where there's an unwritten social contract between the government, between the various institutions of the state and the people, that there is some level of trust that this social contract will be respected and that this social contract will be protected. In this sense, the institutions of the justice system, the institutions of justice, of the judiciary, the trust that people place in these institutions is critical. There needs to be a trust that these institutions will function impartially, will function independently, and that they will act in the interests of the people. And the problem today is that this trust that people have in the organs of the state have deteriorated to a critical level. Today, the situation we have is actually a distortion of that social contract and a distortion of the trust that people have and a manipulation of that trust. This is a country that faced a momentous uprising that was led by the citizens as a reaction to the arrogant and insensitive actions of a wildly popular government that was elected, but within 2 years, which completely managed to destroy the trust and the trust that the people had placed in that government. The bottom line was that the institutions that were expected to take care of the people, that the institutions that were there to protect people essentially failed, and rather those institutions were manipulated or made to function in the interests of those in power. This is what forced people to take to the streets. This is what forced people to demand that those elected representatives actually leave their positions. But what is more critical is what happened thereafter. What happened thereafter was that the constitution was used, the laws and the institutions of power were used by those in power to realign themselves and to protect themselves and to completely ignore the voice and ignore the demands that the people had made through that in that moment. The result is that today what we have is a total distortion of justice and of fair play and a normalization of illegitimacy. For a society to function effectively, for a government to govern, legitimacy is key. It's critical. Without that legitimacy, without that trust that people have that the government will work on their behalf, there can be no hope of justice, there can be no hope of fair play. Today, all the organs of the state are being used to justify this distorted state of play that is currently in the country. We have government ministers who accuse each other of corruption in Parliament, accusing the judiciary of bias. The Justice Minister himself has talked in Parliament of huge levels of corruption. I recall one instance where you talked about the corruption in relation to Express Pearl. Right? You made those statements here, but nothing has happened. The former Sports Minister made serious allegations against the judiciary. All of this go to erode even the minimal trust that people have in the judicial system. The President, as has been talked about here, has made all kinds of statements and all kinds of claims that have really damaged these institutions. For instance, take his attitude towards a local government election, an election which the Independent Election Commission declared, but the President came to Parliament and said that he did not know what election was being talked about because no election had been declared. When the judiciary in a determination says that that election must take place, that the money that was allocated through the Parliament, approved by Parliament, must be allocated, this does not happen. The executive ignores the determination of the court. President claims in various speeches that the people of this country do not want elections, that is not the priority of people, indirectly attempting to influence the judiciary. He comes to Parliament and claims that the Constitutional Council is an extension of executive power. Right? He continues to make these kinds of wild and very irresponsible claims, constantly undermining the independence of the judiciary and the role of the judiciary in protecting the people of this country and standing by the interests of the people of this country. If you look at the Parliament and its legislative functions also, the laws that, we've passed the 17th law, the constitutional amendments, each amendment which is a contradiction of the previous amendment. 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21, 22, and there are members of Parliament here who have raised their hands to each of these amendments. Right? Take one amendment in particular that has come into focus today, the one about the one preventing dual citizens from being elected to Parliament or having a position of authority within the legislature. This came in through one amendment, was removed by another amendment, and has come back. Reversed. Yes, then the amendment itself was reversed and reimposed and reversed. Today, there's a current sitting MP whose citizenship status is being challenged, which is a serious matter. If any of a member of Parliament cannot prove his or her citizenship, and his or her citizenship is challenged by a citizen of this country, that is a serious matter. The Supreme Court has recently delivered a verdict naming one of those dual citizens as culpable in the economic crisis that the country experienced and as responsible for the suffering that the people of this country have undergone. So what is the accountability that this Parliament then has on matters that have been determined also by the judiciary? This legislation, if you look at the law, if you look at the bills that keep coming before us, there's a pattern where the priority given is to those bills that really seek to suppress the voice of the people, to suppress the freedoms of people. The Prevention of Terrorism Act continues to be applied even when this very government some years ago declared a moratorium on it. The Counter-Terrorism Act, which the government put forward, which was challenged, was taken back, and almost the same bill now is being presented again. Online social media bill, all of these bills, there are several others which I don't have the time to go into.
Honourable Member, you have 3 more minutes.
All of those bills, whose interests are these bills really representing? It seems as if the government in power's main mandate right now is to somehow remain in power at all costs. Can there be a more dangerous situation? It is in this context where this government has demonstrated over and over again its utter and total contempt of the law, of the Constitution, of any kind of ethics, moral obligation, justice, to save any interest in safeguarding the interests of the people, that it's willing to go to any length. It is in this context that the role of the judiciary is critical, because we are rapidly approaching a point of no return, where there's potentially a complete breakdown of all that we hold sacred in this country. And it is in this context that the majority of citizens of this country are turning to the judiciary, are placing their hope on the judiciary to uphold the public trust, to protect the public, and to act in the interests of the public, to rise above the political power plays of this government, and that it cannot at this point let the people of this country down. ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම මේ මොහොතේ මේ රටේ යම්කිසි බලාපොරොත්තුවක් අපිට තියෙනවා නම් ඒක තියන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ මේ රටේ පුරවැසියෝ මතයි, මේ රටේ අධිකරණය මතයි. ඒ දෙක තුලින් තමයි අධිකරණයටත් මේ රටේ ජනතාවටත් මේ රටේ පුරවැසියන්ටත් තමයි මේ රටට අවශ්‍ය වෙන මේ විශාල පරිවර්තනය ගේන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. අන්න ඒ සන්දර්භය තුල තමයි මම ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම අපි මේක ඉල්ලා සිටින්නේ මේ මොහොතේ අධිකරණයට තමන්ගේ කාර්යභාරය වෙනුවෙන් පෙනී ඉන්න කියලා. ගරු සභාපතිතුමනි, මට තප්පරයක් දෙන්න, මට මෙන්න මේක කියවන්න අවස්ථාවක් දෙන්න. මේ ළඟදී මේ වෙලාවේ ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම නඩු තීන්දුවක් තුලින්ම ඇත්ත වශයෙන් මේ අධිකරණයම දුන්න තීරණයක් මට මෙතන ඒ determination එකෙන් පොඩි අදහසක් ගන්න ඕනේ. As firmly laid down in the determination of the divisional bench of 7 judges of this court in regard to the constitutionality of the proposed 19th amendment to the Constitution, the principle enunciated in Articles 3 and 4 of our Constitution is that the respective organs of government, the legislature, the executive and the judiciary are reposed power as custodians for the time being to be exercised for the people. It has been firmly stated in several judgments of this court that the rule of law is the basis of our Constitution. If there is one principle that runs through the entire fabric of the Constitution, it is the principle of the rule of law. And under the Constitution, it is the judiciary which is entrusted with the task of keeping every organ of the state within the limits of the law and thereby making the rule of law meaningful and effective. As it is essential to the maintenance of the rule of law that every organ of the state must act within the limits of its power and carry out the duty imposed upon it in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution and the law, the court cannot close its eyes and allow the actions of the state or the public authority to go unchecked in its operations in the public interest. මේක ඉතාමත්ම වැදගත් තීන්දුවක් අධිකරණයෙන් දුන්නේ. මොකද ඒ නඩුවට විතරක් අදාළව නෙවෙයි, මේ වෙලාවේ මේ රට මුණ දෙන්න තීරණාත්මක මේ බරපතල තත්ත්වය තුළ අධිකරණය ඒ වෙනුවෙන් පෙනී ඉඳීම අතිශයින්ම වැදගත් වෙනවා. බෙහෙවින්ම ස්තුතියි.